250. Just think about that number. No, that is not the number of times Nikita Mazepin will spin in F1 this season. This is officially the 250th GP4 OC top class race. Over 5 years ago the OC started, and we have now got to this stage. The 2019 season, the penultimate season before the OC goes to Fantasy, and it's your OC commentator George here. It's been there from the start, still going on. So yeah, this is the 2019 season. We start at the usual place, the Australian Grand Prix at the Melbourne Street Circuit. That record set by Will Kneller back in 2017, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 3. Of course, we had a number of driver changes for this season, quite a few unexpected ones, of course. One of them being, of course, a certain Florian Volker, the 5-time world champion, who will be remaining a 5-time world champion. And he retired, of course, at the end of last season after the Brazilian race, which no one expected. It took everybody by surprise. And so, of course, they had to find someone to replace him, and they found Amar Kar, formerly of Ferrari last season, to replace Volker at Mercedes. This was, of course, the free practice result from Melbourne. You can see Joseph Willis top, ahead of Mercedes, Red Bull, and then Mercedes. And the rest of the order is as follows. You can see, obviously, a number of new drivers, and, of course, a number of renamed teams as well. But enough of that. This is the starting grid for the first race of the season, and it is the two Francos on the front row. Franco Lopez for Mercedes, ahead of Franco Gamba for Red Bull. On row 2, what a performance from David Kupok for Toro Rosso in his first OC race. Could he be the next Volker? Ahead of Amar Kar for Mercedes. On row 3 is the two Ferraris of Joseph Willows and Laura Chung. Laura Chung, of course, brought back from the dead. Originally, she didn't have a seat for the season until, of course, that decision for Volker to retire. On row 4 of the grid, we have Kirosova De Rossi for McLaren and Roland Moitin 8th for the now renamed Racing Point. 9th is George Roque for the other Racing Point, and 10th Nicolas Gal for Red Bull. He'll be under pressure to keep the seat for this season. On row 6 of the grid, we have Chris Chatfield, a very impressive qualifying performance from him. In 11th, ahead of Andrea Federici in 12th position for Alfa Romeo. 13th is Paolino Tomaselli for McLaren, moving from Alfa to McLaren, and then Jim Kessie 14th. On row 8 of the grid, we have Matteo Catalan for Toro Rosso, alongside Rosetta Martinez for Manor, 2 new debuts there. Gabriel Gomez, 17th for Alfa, and the 18th is Jared Fosbury, the other new driver for Haas, an all-new lineup at Haas this season. On row 10 of the grid, we have Evan Byrne for Renault, and Felix Sontag, 20th for Williams. And the last row of the grid, we have Maxime Titkoff for Manor, and Lean Campana, last on the grid for Williams. So that is the starting grid, and of course here's the weather. And it is going to be a wet race. It's going to be light wet, a 43% chance of rain, but it is going to be wet pretty much throughout the whole of this race. So let's get this season started, shall we? But as you can see, the rain is falling, but the track is crucially dry at the start, but I don't imagine it will be too long until the track gets wet. But anyway, here we go. The 5 lights are coming on. The 2019 season is about to get underway. The 5 lights are now on. And the 2019 season is a go, and Franco Lopez makes a great start. Gamba has not made a good start at all, actually. Kupok's got the jump on him, and David Kupok up into second place, and Franco Gamba got a terrible launch there. Lopez taking the lead of Kupok, even trying to take a look down the inside of Lopez. What a start he's had, but Gamba has dropped down a number of positions. He's dropped down, I think it's 2 places, down to 5th, or even 3 I should say. Dropped down behind Willows and Carr. Meanwhile, Willows trying to get past Carr, coming into turn 3. Willows trying to make a move on the inside. Carr not giving him a lot of room, but Franco Gamba not the start he would have wanted at all, and he loses a number of positions, down to 5th position. De Rossa, then there's looking through the rest of the top 10, there's Chung, and Chung has got damage. Oh, Laura Chung, who's ahead of George Roku himself, has made a pretty awful start. But let's see what happened to Laura Chung. So she made not the best of launches, I guess, but still in 6th position, and I think she must have got hit from behind. Look at De Rossa there, trying to squeeze his way through in the middle. And Chung was hit from behind, so no damage from the front, so she was hit from behind. We're looking on board with Andrea Federi for the renamed Alfa Romeo team. So let's see if anything happened to him. He was involved in this, so he was running, totally made an okay start, gained a position going past George Roque there. And, oh, he got hit from behind, and then he went into Laura Chung, so that explains it. Was it Chris Chatfield here in the Haas? I'm not sure. I think it was... no, it was, and Chris Chatfield just goes into Federi, who then goes into Chung, and that is what caused that damage on the first lap. Here's Rosetta Martinez, who himself has not made a good start. He got dumped there by Gabriel Gomez, and did he get any damage in the first corner? And oh, yes, he did! Look at that, he lofts off the side of Gomez's car there. I did that a little bit early there, because I assumed, obviously, with getting off the ground that much, he was going to get damaged, and he did. This was the start from David Kupok for Toro Rosso. What a start he made. Got a great launch off the line. Left Gamba for dust and even tried to have a little look at passing Franco Lopez coming around the exit of turn 1 there. Now that would have been a story. David Kupok for Toro Rosso on his debut leading after the first corner. But it's certainly a great start and many people will be having their eyes open and looking at this. Meanwhile, looking at Sontag and Byrne trying to get through the damaged cars of Chung and Chatfield. Oh, and wow, look at that. I think that was Lin Capano going right into the back of Titkoff there. And it was lucky there was no damage for either driver there. Now here's Willers trying yet again, trying to get past Carr, failing to do so. Gamba now under pressure from De Rossi behind him, Moichin. And then Gal could get involved as well. But at the moment, Carr under pressure from Willers. Kupok currently staying with Lopez at this moment in time. I know it's only the first lap, but even so, Kupok doing a great job. I wonder if Willers might try and make a move into the first corner of Carr. He's right behind him coming out of the front straight. And here we go. So Lopez goes across the line. He leads. Kupok is second. Carr is third, although it might not be for long. And meanwhile, De Rossi trying to make a move on the inside of Franco Gamba for P5. And Willers is through up into P3 past Carr. And meanwhile, De Rossi, I think he was just about on the inside of Gamba. Does he make the move stick? And no, he doesn't. Now, unfortunately for De Rossi, that means he's got Moichin and Galb right behind trying to make moves as well. They trip up over each other. De Rossi once again on the inside. Is he going to make the move stick? I think he might. He's on the inside, De Rossi, and he is through. So not the start that Franco Gamba would have wanted at all. He's down to 6th position when he started second after just 2 laps. Really not what he would have wanted at all. And you can see that actually there. George Roque dropped down to 12th. He's made a pretty awful start. Meanwhile, we see obviously the cars in the pits. Martinez, Federi, Chatfield in the pits, of course, having to change their wings as Chung, of course, rejoining. And just Chatfield just getting right in front of Chung there. Meanwhile, we're looking at David Kupok, who is still actually keeping up with Lopez, less than a second behind. I mean, if David Kupok leads this race in the Toro Rosso on his debut, that would be just quite unbelievable, really. Meanwhile, we're looking at this big gaggle of cars right behind Gal for P8. Here's Mackenzie. There's Tomaselli. There's Catalan. And there's Rokovic's. Ooh, and nearly a bit of movement there from Mackenzie right in front of Tomaselli. I wonder if they'll still try and make a move. Catalan, of course, making his debut. No one expected him either to be in the top tier. Came from absolutely nowhere. Came from Formula E. All the way to F1. You never would have expected that before. It's the first time that's ever happened. So, I mean, it opens the door for it to happen again in the future. Meanwhile, we're looking at David Kupok once again, keeping up to the back end of Franco Lopez. You can see the track definitely seems to be a little bit darker. I think the track is certainly starting to get a little bit damp. It's only going to be a matter of time when these drivers have to pit for wet tyres. Meanwhile, look at the top 3. Willers is getting close to Kupok. Meanwhile, Gal trying to get past on the inside of Roda Moichin into the first corner, and he's through. Up into P7, and now he'll go after his teammate, Franco Gamba. Meanwhile, Evan Byrne actually sets the fastest lap of the race. He is behind this massive gaggle of cars, so that's quite interesting to say the least. Meanwhile, we're looking, and Mackenzie might be overtaken by Tomaselli here. He's on the inside. Tomaselli, oh, and he just about gets away with contact, and he's through, and so is Catalan. He's had a good start to this race, up 5 positions. So this was the onboard once again from Tomaselli trying to get through on the inside of Mackenzie. Mackenzie was not giving him any room at all. And Tomaselli was like, no, I'm still forcing my way through, man. And he does just about. I have no idea how there wasn't contact. But Matteo Catalan also managed to sneak his way through as well. He took advantage of this, you can see. And I'm amazed there was not contact there between the two. But good start from both. As here was the view once again. I'm so close to contact there. It was right on the edge. And if there was contact then, Mackenzie probably would have lost a wing or even more. Probably a wheel, but nevertheless, kept it clean. Meanwhile, here is about a second. This is between Willers and David Kupok. Now, Willers has caught up to the back of Kupok, and I imagine Willers might try to make a move into the first corner. Kupok, fair play to him, has still stayed with Lopez out front. And Willers could try it on the inside. There was almost contact, but couldn't quite make the move stick. And now Carl's going to have the opportunity to get back at Willers now. Meanwhile, De Rossi in the distance just watching this, hoping that these guys trip over each other. Now here is Carr, who looks to get back on the inside of Willows, coming into turn 3. Is he going to make the move stick? And yes, he is. So Carr gets it back. Willows not being able to take the opportunity to get past Kupok, so now he's going to try it all over again. Now he's got De Rossi for company right behind him. And unfortunately, there's no real overtaking spots until after this right-hander, before coming onto the back straight. So as we look at Armor Carr coming through in third, now he'll go after David Kupok in front of him. So the gap Kupok to Lopez is 1.5 seconds. So it's going to be a big gallop here. Now here's Gal trying to get past his teammate Franco Gamba there, failing to do so. Laura Chung meanwhile selecting the fastest lap on fresh tyres, of course, having come out of the pits from damage there as they come through onto the back straight. Oh, Roque is off, and George Roque is off, And he must have had contact because he went off at a hell of a speed. But George Roke, not the start he would have wanted on his return to, well, Force India now racing point, and it was Evan Byrne. So it looks like there must have been contact between the two. So Byrne is out, and so is Roke. So two experienced heads are out of this race. So we're going to take a look and see what happened between the two. So this was the battle for 12th position. So Byrne was in the slipstream of Roke, and let's see coming through in the slipstream, and ooh, yeah. I mean, I suppose Byrne, I don't think the move was really on for him. I mean, you could say Roke moved over it on him a little bit as well, but well, unfortunately, regardless, I think Byrne was definitely going to try and go for it from a long distance, but failed. So, I mean, I'd probably say racing incident maybe, but we'll see what the stewards say about that. That will most likely be under investigation. So we'll see. Well, I'll let the stewards do their job in that respect. And you can see from race control, the incident between the two is under investigation. So there we go. So that is the first two retirements of the season. Evan Byrne and George Roke on lap 4 of this race. Now, meanwhile, this is Willows trying once again to get back past Carr into turn 1. Failing to do so, that's allowing David Kupok to get away. And there was nearly contact there as Carr took an unusual line through there. Now De Rossa has the chance to get back through. Past Willows, trying to get past Willows, but he's unable to do so. The rain, of course, still coming down, and I imagine it's probably going to be another lap or so, and the track is going to get wet. Meanwhile, we're looking at this battle, I think, for the 12th position here, or 13th. There's Fosbury trying to get on the inside of Felix Sonntag here. This is for P13, and ahead of them is the Alpha of Gabriel Gomez, and Fosbury does make it stick. Martinez behind. Titkoff behind, unable to make the stick, and there we go. The back markers there, that's around Sector 3. The spray is now coming out, so it's going to be the next probably few laps or so. Drivers are going to start to pit for wets, or I say wet tyres, even into tyres, but it's going to be wet pretty much throughout the rest of this race, so it's going to be very interesting to see what the drivers decide to do. So, which driver, I suppose, blinks first, really, onto the wet tyres. I mean, could the back markers do it? Maybe, I don't know. But at the moment, it's only wet around the last sector, Sector 3. Laura Chung, as you can see, has just got past Federi for 17th place. Sorry, Federi down to 18th. So I wonder if any of the back markers who have not pitted might try and go onto the wet tyres. You can see it's very wet coming onto the front straight and the last sector. But apart from that, it's not wet anywhere else. Willows trying to get past Carr into the first corner, unable to do so. You can see the dry line still remaining, but as I said, it's only going to be a matter of time. But Willows, meanwhile, is not going to wait for that. He's going to try and have a go at Carr. This is for P3. Willows on the inside. Can he make it stick? Is he through? The answer is, I think, yes. Carr goes wide, and Willows is back through once again. So possibly a new rivalry this is, obviously, between Willows and Carr. So Willows on the inside, you can see here, and made the move stick, and there was, once again, so nearly contact, gave each other just enough room. Carr loses out there now, and of course he could lose out even more if De Rossa has something to say about it, and Carr defends quite vigorously into the corner there, but De Rossa unable to make the move stick. But Carr is really under pressure here. Meanwhile, Frank Gabra has made a mistake! Oh, and Gal unable to get past, and Moitin has snuck through there. So Frank Gabra really struggling at this point in the race. Nicolas Gal was all over the back of him. There was almost contact, and Gamba went wide onto the curb there, probably struggling on the tyres, and then somehow they didn't make contact, and Gal probably scraped the wall there, coming off the exit of the corner. But they both stay in the race of Red Bulls, but unfortunately for Gal, he's lost out to Roland Moitin there, and he moves up into P7, and now he'll probably go after Franco Gamba. But how? I mean, we've seen so many times at that corner, sometimes the exit, drivers going into the wall there, and fortunately Gal actually did a pretty good job at avoiding it, actually. But unfortunately loses a position in the process. You can see it's still extremely wet in his last sector. Meanwhile, this is Willows, who's got an unbelievable run off the corner, and has just breezed past David Kupok there for second position. Wow. I was not expecting that. Willows got an unbelievable exit, but Kupok might actually try and get it back, and he does. So that was quick. So great battle there, Kupok, certainly not giving it up, but he got a terrible exit, probably struggling on these tyres. It's now starting to actually get wet around the first sector as well, so it's surely going to be only a matter of time until the first driver pits. But who is going to blink first? Because as soon as, whichever driver decides to pit first, the rest of them are going to follow suit. Meanwhile, Miguel Scal trying to get past his fellow Hungarian Roland Moichin, who Moichin I think is looking a little bit all over the place coming into the corner there. And meanwhile he's got Catalan and the other McLaren for company as well, closing up behind as we're looking through the rest of the field. Anyone else pitting at the moment? It doesn't look like it. Meanwhile, Willis is going to try once again on the all over David Kupok. He's unable to make the move stick here. So coming onto the straight, you might try and make it coming through the fast chicane, but you don't really see very many, if any, moves coming around there. But Willis going to try and go around, I suppose, the outside for the inside, and that's not going to work. Never works. So Willis going to stick behind Kupok. He's in the slipstream, but clearly Willis is really relishing these conditions. They've left car for dust as well behind. Willis going to try and make a move inside. Kupok not going to give it up very easily, and he doesn't. So this battle continues on. That's good use, of course, of Franco Lopez out front. He can extend the gap, of course, to Kupok and Willis. Of course, the car is not that far away, but still, they've left clearly struggling with pace. But surely Willis is going to try and make another move on the front straight. Kupok got a bad run off the corner before. He's got a better run this time, although Willis is still right behind the slipstream. So Kupok surely going to defend. Although, no, he doesn't actually. Willis is going to go on the inside, so this is surely going to be the move for P2. And yes, Willis up into P2, passes David Kupok. So good move there by the Brits, passing the German. Now Willis is going to surely go after Franco Lopez out front. Meanwhile, Gal has got past his fellow Hungarian Moichin, as you can see. He's moved up to 7th position. So Gal recovering the position that he lost in that battle with Franco Gamma. Meanwhile, we're looking at Maxime Titkov, who is battling with Gerald Fosbury in the Haas. And Titkov's going to be on the inside, and I think he's going to make the move stick. And the answer is yes, he does. So good move there by the Russian. Unfortunately, Haas not having a particularly great race so far. Of course, Chatfield involved in the first lap, and Fosbury just has not really had a lot of pace in this race, although Fosbury's trying to get back past Titkov, but he's failing to do so. So that is another position there. As we're looking at Willis, you can see, look at how much he's already gaining on Franco Lopez. It's less than a second, 6/10 it is now. Meanwhile, Carr might actually be closing as well on David Kupok behind, but of course we are going to see a battle for the lead very shortly. Well, it's going to be at the end of this lap, surely, because Willis is just so quick, it seems, in these conditions. Seems to be the quickest car on track. Still no one going for the inters or the wet tyres yet. Surely it's going to be next lap, because the track is soaking wet. And there's no way these drivers can have any grip on them at all. And actually, Lopez pits first. So Lopez is the first one to blink for the wet tyres. Kupok goes in as well. That's interesting. De Rossa's in too. So here we go. Everyone is starting to come in. Meanwhile, Evan Byrne has received a 5-place grid penalty for causing an incident with car 99 George Roke there. So he'll get that for next race. But here we go. So would he go onto the inters or the wets, Franco Lopez? And the answer is going to be the wet tyres. Okay, so De Rossa's in. Kupok is in, Gamba's in, Moichin is in, so a number of drivers pitting this lap, and I mean this could honestly be the difference as to who comes out in front. I think these guys might have actually thought of it pretty well. I think the McLaren of De Rossa might be pitting this lap, I think, or next lap I should say. Roland Moichin of course in, anyone else behind in, but there's a Alfa Romeo in as well. I think that might have been of Gabriel Gomez that was in. De Rossa coming out, Gamba coming out as well. I think Gamba actually may have jumped De Rossa in the stop there, yeah, because Gamba was behind, so he's made a position there. Meanwhile, David Kupok coming out just ahead, or sorry, that was the Mercedes coming out just ahead there of the Williams of Sontag, Franco Lopez there, so, and now Sontag's going to try and actually go down the inside of Lopez coming into turn 3, and Sontag's going to go through on the inside. I suppose Lopez is probably best not defend from him, just let him go. But of course it'd be interesting to see what the grip of these guys on the tyres will be. Titkov was in as well, Fosbury, Campana, a number of drivers in on this lap. I was wondering if it was going to be about lap 10. It was. Chung in as well, and Federi. So of course the rest of the drivers are now going to come in. Chatfield's coming in. I think Martinez was coming in as well. Willow's actually still not pitting, surprisingly enough. He's still... no, he is actually. No, he is pitting. Because Chung is out the box. So Joseph Willis is going to pit this lap. I was going to say, if he waited another lap longer, he would be pretty screwed. So this could be fascinating to see who is going to be leading this race. If it is still going to be Franco Lopez that leads. Of course, he was held up by Sontag passing him. But all the top 5 cars are coming in. So here we go. So, of course, yeah, this is going to be just fascinating. So the top 5 are in. Mackenzie still not coming in yet, surprisingly, actually. But the top 5 cars, so Carr, Willows, Gal, Tomaselli and Catalan, all coming in this lap. So the big question is, how is this going to shake up the order? So Willows makes his stop, comes out. Does he have to wait for any cars? The answer is no, he's free. He is out of his box. Carr comes in. Does he have to wait for anybody? The answer is yes. He has to wait for... Oh, he has to wait for a couple of guys. He has to wait for the Red Bull to go, and he's going to have to wait for the McLaren, and he's going to have to wait for the Toro Rosso. The car has been severely held up in these stops. He's going to lose out big time in this pit stop phrase. So who is going to be leading this race? Will it still be Willows? I mean, surely the car is not going to lead. He was held up for so long. Or where is he going to come out anyway? So Gal comes out of the pits. He's in P4. Catalan comes in as well. There's Tomaselli. So Kupok is still in P4. So car is going to come out. Is he going to come out ahead of Kupok? He might still come out ahead, actually. And the answer is yes. So despite being held up in the pits Armor car, he still comes out ahead of David Kupok. So, wow, that is very interesting. So Willows does still lead this race. So it actually turned out to be an advantage for the drivers that stayed out longer. Meanwhile, Kupok trying to get on the inside. He is going to try and make a move on car. And is he going to make it through on the inside? And yes, Kupok makes a great move there on Armor car and keeps third position. He really is showing himself what he is all about. But that is changed up the order. So this is the order now. So Willows first, Lopez second, Kupok third, Carr in fourth. Franco Gamba's taking advantage. He's moved up to fifth position. Gal 6th, De Rossi 7th, Moichin 8th, Tomaselli 9th, and Catalan 10th after the first set of stops. You could say they were unscheduled, but they were scheduled because of the rain. So, wow. Joseph Willows, that has worked out handsomely for him. So he now leads this race as everyone is now on the wet tyres. And now we'll get the hammer down and see what they can do. But David Kupok having a fantastic race so far. Gets back past Carr. Question is actually, will he be able to catch back up to Franco Lopez in front? I'm not sure, but he certainly managed to keep it with the top cars, which is surprising considering the fact, of course, he is in a Toro Rosso. But wow, this has been a fantastic race so far, and this has only been 11 laps. We have still got 3/4 of the race left to go, and who knows what else is going to happen this race. But yeah, it's been a great start so far. I mean, let's hope we have this kind of in every race this season. But Franco Lopez, unfortunately for him, been dropped. As meanwhile, Franco Gamba has got a fantastic run off the final corner, and he's going to overtake Armor Carr for P4. So Carr's struggling on these tyres, it seems, unable to get them going. And Franco Gamba is going to make a move for P4 into the turn 1, and he is through on the inside, and he takes it away from him. Now, I wonder if Gamba will go after David Kupok in front of him. This will be interesting to see if he does. So Willows at the moment the gap, actually. He's got a 6-second lead over Lopez. That's going to be tough for him to get back. Meanwhile, this is De Rossa going past Miguelos Gal for P6, and he moves up there. Good move by him. Meanwhile, Matteo Catalan has moved up to 9th. He's got past Paulino Tomaselli. Catalan also himself having a pretty solid debut as well, actually, for Toro Rosso. Both drivers doing very well so far, but as I said, Willows is the one who's taken advantage of the stops, and he leads comfortably at this moment in time. Meanwhile, we're looking at Franco Lopez in second. The gap seemingly going up to David Kupok in third. Meanwhile, we're looking at Laura Chong all the way down in 17th place. Now goes past the Williams of Lin Campana. That is for P16. So Chong's still got a lot of places to gain if she wants to get any points out of this race. But of course, one of the rules for this season is the fastest lap point. And I believe, because she set the fastest lap, I think, before the weather came, she'll get the point at this moment in time. Meanwhile, Franco Gamba is on the pace. Laura Chong struggling in these wet conditions, but Franco Gamba already on the back of David Kupok, as we saw the little mistake here from Laura Chong. They're all over the place, struggling on the brakes in these wet conditions. But as you can see, this battle for P3 raging on, and this could be a mega battle soon if the drivers behind him close up. But David Kupok is going to get swamped at this point. He's had a good start to the race, but is it about to all come undone? Meanwhile, Franco Gamba does take P3 away from him, and now I wonder if he could go after Franco Lopez in front of him. What is the gap, actually? It's about nearly 8 seconds. It is quite a lot, but we'll see what Gamba could do on these tyres. 7.5 seconds it was. I wonder if it will be any gain. And look at that, it's already down by half a second. That was Gamba actually overtaking Kupok. So Lopez has definitely got to watch his mirrors, that's for sure. But meanwhile, of course, Kupok has got Carr De Rossa behind him, and also Miguelos Gal. So David Kupok needs to really watch his mirrors. He needs to have the biggest car imaginable if he wants to keep this position as they're coming onto the back straight. But I suppose it was in a way it was bound to happen. Kupok now not quite with the pace, but so he did an amazing job so far, and he's still, I mean, the fact he's battling with Mercedes and Ferraris is just quite unbelievable, really, and Red Bulls. But meanwhile, we're looking at De Rossa, who's all over the back of Carr. I wonder if he's going to try and make a move. Carr defends. De Rossa's really trying to make a move then. Oh, contact! And Carr is off. And DeRossa has made it through, I think, and I believe Carl's got damage. Yes, he has, and Gal is going to sneak through as well. He moves up into P5. He's taking advantage of all this. But Armor Car, his race has now come undone. He's lost his wing as he was defending from DeRossa there. And goes up into the gravel, loses his wing. DeRossa, well, I say takes position. He lost it to Gal as well. So Gal, the big benefactor in that, he took advantage and took both positions. But Armor Car, you got a feel for him. He was, I don't know, he just wasn't quite with it, I suppose, compared to his teammate Franco Lopez. But now, of course, he has to pit for a new front wing. So that is going to affect his race quite badly. He'll be on even fresher wets than before. It doesn't look like it's raining at the moment, but it still looks like it's pretty wet. So it's rained quite heavily anyway. So he comes out of the pits. And there we go. So he's going to come out, looks like, just ahead of Laura Chung. Quite funnily enough. As we look at the rest of the order. So still 20 cars at the moment remaining. But imagine there's going to be a number of retirements. So as we look at the order, we look now on lap 17. Willow's at the moment, look at the gap, it's extending to 12.6 seconds. Gamma about 5.5. He's not gaining as much as he was before. Meanwhile, this is Andrea Federi, who is passing Lean Campana. That is for P17 as they go into the first corner. Unfortunately, Campana getting ghosted on the straights there. But David Kupok still holding on to P4. He's still doing a good job, but he's got Mick Descal now right behind him. So I wonder how long Kupok will be able to hold off the sister car for. So we're on lap 17 now. Still plenty of this race left to go. And there's still just a whole lot that could happen. So the gap, Willis to Lopez said, is 12.8. The gap Gamba's got down to about 5.4. So it's coming down, I guess. But we'll see if Gamba can have an impact anyway on this race later on. Meanwhile, this is obviously the battle for P4. This is between Kupok and Gal. Look now coming onto the front straight. I think Gal is just about the slipstream Kupok, so I think he could make a move into the first corner. He's in the slipstream, and I think he might do so. Kupok defends. Gal's going to try and make a move on the inside. This is going to be close. Oh, there's contact! And Kupok is off, and Gal is off as well. Kupok is off and loses his front wing. And oh, you can't believe it. You've got to feel for David Kupok there. And contact between him and Gal, and Kupok now has to go a whole lap without part of his front wing. He's going to have to pit and have that changed. But you really got to feel for him. He'd had such a good race. Unfortunately, it's all come down to a battle with the sister team. De Rosso has actually passed Gal as well, thanks to that mistake he made. But there's the contact there, and unfortunately pushed him right off into the gravel, damaging the car. And yeah, it's a shame. Kupok definitely could have been on for a really good result. Certainly, I say he would have been in the points. It would have been probably at least a top 5 had he kept up what he was doing, maybe. But he is unfortunately going to get nothing. Meanwhile, this is a battle for P10. Sontag defending from Maxime Titkov. Trying to move on the inside. Oh, there's contact again. And Titkov is kept on the road. Kept on the track, actually. I thought he was going to go off into the gravel, but fair play. Kept it on the road. But unfortunately, that lost time to the Renault in front. There was the contact. I'm amazed, actually, that Sontag didn't go off. It was actually a Titkov that lost more time there, funnily enough. Meanwhile, this is the race leader, Joseph Willis, who is extending his gap quite dramatically. 2 Lopez seconds, now 16 seconds. Meanwhile, Gamba definitely is closing on the back of Lopez. It's only 3.4 seconds now. Meanwhile, this is Sonta trying to get past Jay McKenzie for 10th position. Sonta trying to move on the inside into turn 1, and he's unable to do so. Meanwhile, Carr trying to carve his way through the field. He's now up to 12th. He's now going to try and get past Sontag as well. If he's got enough of a run off of turn 1, he might do so. Sontag defends, so I don't think it's quite going to happen here. But Carr already trying to desperately get back positions, so this was him on the back of Maxime Titkov coming round the final corner. Now coming onto the straight, you can see the slipstream, the Mercedes Power just gets in the slipstream and will go alongside the Russian. And here it is, goes alongside. Titkov didn't really put up... Actually, no, he did put up a bit of a defence, actually. Titkov, I was surprised, really, because Manor versus Mercedes is not really a battle you'd normally see. So Carr made it through there very easily, and he'll get past Sonto pretty soon. And then, of course, McKenzie. He can go for the higher reach of the points. Meanwhile, Laura Chung is now going to try and get past Titkov as well. And she's gonna make a move on the inside for the first corner. She's on the inside. This should be the move for P13. And the answer is... I think, has she done it? The answer is... No, actually she hasn't. Titkov managed to keep the position there. So Chung will want to make the move. And actually Titkov is pitting this lap, as a matter of fact. Meanwhile, Chung still trying to make a move on the inside. And she's finally going to do it this time into turn 3. And she is through Titkov is going to be pitting this lap, so it is a scheduled stop as well. So, looking at Matteo Catalan as well, I have to say, in 7th position now for Toro Rosso. It's been an impressive debut from the Italian. Yes, there's not really much more you can say about that. Just kept himself clean, avoided any trouble, and that's how he's got there. So, the gap Lopez to Wills, again, I just saw was about 17 seconds. The gap is growing lap by lap, but meanwhile we're looking at Laura Chung, who is on the inside, or at least attempted to, of Armand Carr. This will be a battle you would expect for maybe a podium place. You wouldn't never expect it for the lower reaches of the points, or not even in the points. Just trying to get into the points, which is bad enough. Meanwhile, De Rosa is going to be pitting this lap. He's had a solid race as well for McLaren. He had not a great season last season. People saying obviously he was lucky to keep his seat, but he's got a lot to prove to people, and so far in this race, he has proved that he still has he still can get a good result. Meanwhile, we're looking at, once again, this is Carr all over the back of Sontag, but of course, Carr's got to watch out for Chung behind as well. He's going to try and make a move. Carr all over the back of Sontag. He really wishes that he could get rid of this slow Williams, but Chung is there, of course. Really almost Carr pushing Sontag through the corners there, trying to get through. Unable to do so, but now Chung is right there in this battle for what is P11. But will Carr try and make a move on the inside of Sontag? The answer is yes, he does. And is there going to be more contact? I don't think there was, but I think Carr might just about sneak through, and he's on the inside, and this should be the move. And now Chung makes her way through as well. So good move there by Carr, and also good move by Chung, managing to follow through. For Sontag, was there contact? No, Sontag just moved away at about the right time to ensure that there was no contact made. So good job there by Sontag, and the two other drivers there kept it clean. So now Carr is through, but now he's got to deal with Laura Chung all over his backside. So, and now Chung might try and make a move into turn 3 here. Look at that, she's got a great run at the corner on the inside, and I think she's through, is she? Yep. And makes it up into what is P11, but of course now they go after Jay McKenzie in the runner, who at the moment is currently running in the last points position in 10th. But Carr showing his pace so far at this point in the race, but needs to try and recover positions. De Rosa obviously down in 9th, having made a stop. Meanwhile, this could be a battle for, looks like, I think that was P6, that was between Moitian and Catalan. As we look through the rest of the field, there's Chatfield at the moment running in 19th, unfortunately not been his race. Meanwhile, this is Franco Gama, you can see, closing right up to the back of Franco Lopez. It's only 1.5 seconds now, the gap, so we are going to see a battle very, very soon. So, Franco Gama, who of course didn't have a great start, dropped all the way down to 6th position and was being overtaken even by De Rosa in the McLaren, not having a good race. But it's all going his way at the moment. He's seemingly got the pace on Lopez. I mean, he's way off Willows, but Franco Gama could manage to get himself, despite his bad start, a good result out of this race. We're looking obviously at Felix Sontag, who's definitely struggling on these tyres, having been passed by Carr and by Chung. Of course, all these drivers are going to be making another stop, and maybe even at least 2. I doubt anyone's going to try and go to the end from this point. Meanwhile, Willows, he could be pitting in probably a couple laps or so time, 2 or 3 laps, I'd say. But he is cruising out front at this moment in time. Meanwhile, this is Laura Chung who's pitting this lap. She's going to try and go, well, she was going to try and go down the inside of McKenzie and tried the outside, but failed there as well. She's going to be pitting this lap as well. But is she going to try and make a move on the inside of McKenzie? Coming through into turn 3, the answer is yes, and she is through. She's temporarily up into 10th place, because she'll lose that now, because she's pitting at the end of this very lap. Meanwhile, Chung obviously getting away there. Meanwhile, we're looking at Lopez right now in 2nd. I imagine Gamba is probably right behind him. But meanwhile, we're looking, of course, at Chris Chatfield, who's trying to go past the other car there. Meanwhile, Matteo Catalan struggling a little bit on these tyres. Gabriel Gomez is going to be pitting this lap as well. As we're looking at Carr, who still can't get past at the moment, down in 12th position. He's having a really torrid race trying to get past Jay McKenzie. Trying to recover positions. Chung has done a much better job than he has, trying to get past all this traffic. And no, Carr still can't get past McKenzie. Chung, of course, well clear, and she's going to be pitting this lap. So Carr will go up to 11th, and will also now be 10th into the points. But as we look at Carr trying to make a move on the inside, and nope, can't make it stick there. So you have to wait until the front straight to make the next move. So Gabriel Gomez, of course, in the pits this lap for Alfa Romeo, rebranding, of course, from Sauber. So car, we're looking at him coming through the penultimate corner now, coming through the right hand. As long as he sticks in the slipstream, he'll be right on the case. Meanwhile, we're looking, speaking of being right on the case, Gamba is right on the case of the car of Franco Lopez in front of him. This is going to be the battle for second place, which is going to happen very, very soon. So Gamba really has the pace at this point in this race, and he's going to be going for one more stop. So I think a number of them are doing the 3, but a lot of them are going to be trying to do the 2. Meanwhile, Carr, now, can he finally get on the inside of Mackenzie? The answer is no, still can't. He's being blocked off there by the Renault driver. Still not happening for him, unfortunately. Looking at Joseph Willers now coming into the pits for his second stop of the race. Of course, Matteo, I think that was Matteo Catalan is coming in for a stop as well on this lap. So as Willers comes in, would he be going to the end? The answer is no. He'll be pitting once more. So as he comes out of the pits, how quick is his stop going to be? 5.2, pretty quick. So he comes out, and so let's have a look to see. Does he got a? He's not going to come out ahead of Lopez and Gamba. He'll come out just behind. But he'll be on fresher tyres. He'll come out ahead of Miguel Escaldo in P4. But meanwhile, actually, Gamba now taking the lead from Franco Lopez. He has now finally made the move, and the battle between the two Francos, which could go on throughout the season. Franco Gamba, the Italian, overtakes the Argentinian for P1, and that was a great move by Franco Gamba. Did the switcheroo on him and made a great move into turn 1, and now he takes the lead temporarily of the Australian Grand Prix. Meanwhile, Willers just came out ahead of Gal, and that could be crucial for him with regards to this race. So as Willers actually on his tyres makes a little bit of a mistake, and Willers goes off. Willers goes wide and he gets damage, and Joseph Willers has got damage, having just pitted on fresh wet tyres that are extremely cold, and Joseph Willers might have just thrown away what looked like a certain victory for him. I know it was only halfway through the race, but it didn't look like anyone was threatening him. But Joseph Willers has made an unbelievable, uncharacteristic error there, and has just lost, well, he's lost the race win. He has just lost the race win right then and there, incredibly. And Gal didn't make any contact with him. Willers just locked up, went wide on those fresh wet tyres, just had no grip. And Gal was going to take P3, so that is going to mean, actually, that Franco Gamba, from nowhere, is at the moment going to be he is the leader of this race, but after the pit stops, he is going to lead this race. Quite incredible how this race has turned out. So, I mean, that could even be the top 3. It could actually be Franco Gamba, Franco Lopez, and Miguel Escal, the top 3, thanks to that Willers mistake. And he is going to be kicking himself for that. He just needed to be careful, really. He was ahead of Gal, which is exactly what he needed, and he just didn't need to make any mistakes. And I mean, I know it's only the first race, the very first race, but you never know. Could this mistake cost him a chance at the title? It's very early to ask those questions now, but you just never know, really, what could happen. But for Joseph Willers there, just quite an unbelievable mistake. So that is the top 5 there. And Franco Gamba leading ahead of Franco Lopez second, Miguel Escal third, Rolo in fourth, Tomaselli in 5th. That is your top 5. De Rossa 6th, Catalan 7th, Gomez 8th, Willers down to 9th after the pit stop, and Carr in 10th, with David Kupok now overtaking Jay McKenzie for 11th position. So McKenzie, unfortunately, just not at the pace McKenzie this race, really. Sontag 13th, Chung down in 14th, Federi in 15th. Meanwhile, Franco Lopez and Franco Gamba trying to get through all this traffic. They're just passing Jared Fosbury in the Haas, who himself has had a pretty uneventful race, to say the least. I mean, Chetford had a decent qualifying, but unfortunately it went all tits up in the race. But yeah, it's just all gone wrong, really. But of course, Gamba had got a gap to Lopez because he's being held up in all this traffic, so it's not really helping him. And so, of course, he'll want to get away from Lopez before the final pit stop at the end of the race. So, yeah, so we're looking at, obviously, all the drivers coming through all this traffic, and they finally now got through. But now this is Lopez. I thought for a second that he was trying to get after Franco Gamba, but he was just lapping the Haas there. So I was thinking, like, there's a battle for the lead once again. But will Franco Gamba now be able to get the gap that he had before all this traffic? Meanwhile, Joseph Willers already on the back of Gabriel Gomez, and of course, unfortunately for Willers as well, they could have just tried to fuel him to the end and maybe just see where he could go from there. But of course, when you have worn, wet tyres, you can be at least 2-3 seconds slower a lap, really, and that could make a huge difference, or even a sector if it gets that bad. But of course, this rain is not going to stop. It's going to carry on for the rest of the race, but Willows is going to try and carry on for the rest of the race to overtake and make up positions that he has lost all of his own making. So he unable to get through past Gabriel Gomez into turn 1 there, but he would have another position anyway because the McLaren there of Thomas has just come out of the pits. He comes out just ahead of Almar Carr around that dodgy pit exit. We always have. There's so many. There's been quite a few collisions at that pit exit over the years. Or I say collisions, but a lot of drivers going over the first corner trying to avoid the cars coming out of the pits. Fortunately, we've had none so far this race. It's been pretty clean, and I don't remember actually, as far as memory, we had anything in qualifying or practice either. So pretty good so far. But as I said, the gap. This is you can see the gap between Franco Gamba, Franco Lopez, and Miguel Scal. So to come over the line, the gap is going up. It's up to about 1.4. So Gamba seemingly has the pace over Lopez. But of course, he'll need to get past this Alfa Romeo pretty quickly. I think this is of Federi, I believe. He's trying to lap. Meanwhile, Carr trying to get past Tomaselli, who's obviously just come out of the pits. Carr himself will be pitting in a few laps' time for his final stop of the race. Meanwhile, Roland Moitjen, we haven't seen much of him this race, but he is going to come into the pits. He's running in P4. Meanwhile, Carr almost going through the wall there. Getting a little bit too close to the advertising hoardings, but fortunately no damage done. But Roland Moitjen has had a good race so far for Force India. He's kept himself in the points throughout the whole race, but of course he's taken advantage of all the mistakes that have happened around him and moved up several positions. So fair play to him. He has done pretty well so far. Meanwhile, this is Lopez trying to lap the Alfa Romeo of Andrea Federi. And Federi's not going to make it easy for him, and I think he's lost a bit of ground there, Lopez, because he almost went into the wall actually, because he unfortunately caught him out. Meanwhile, Miguel Scal is going to have a chance to close up actually if they carry on doing this. Meanwhile, Carr is now overtaking Tomaselli. This is for P9 into the first corner, and he is through, so he moves up another position in the points. But Roland Moitjen now down to P5 after that stop. Now Matteo Catalan P6, and Carr obviously having just passed Tomaselli 4. P9 Willows at the moment P8, but he still actually hasn't got past Gabriel Gomez in the Alfa. And speaking of Willows, here he is trying to do said thing now, and he does make a stick as Gomez made a mistake there. He was all over the place, and Willows finally does get past the Brazilian driver there. He's now up into P7. Meanwhile, Miguel Scal is going to be pitting now, and surely this is going to be his last stop of the race. Meanwhile, Jamie McKenzie down in 14th position. Of course, he just had a stop as well, but unfortunately for him, pace-wise, it's just not been a particularly great race for him, you have to say. Although it's not been a great race for Renault, of course, either, with Evan Byrne going out, as there's a bit of side-by-side action. That's between Federi and I think that was Chris Chatfield, as it was. So I wonder what happened there. I think, did Chatfield make a move? And it was actually. He got past, I think, did he get past Federi? I think he did. As Federi was trying to make a move past the Renault, McKenzie was really blocking in there, and Chatfield went around the outside, actually. Pretty good move, actually, I have to say. And this was Jared Fosbury in the other Haas, who is just all over the... Oh, and there's contact. Oh, dear, just to rub salt into Fosbury's wounds. He was not having a great race anyway. Just hasn't had the pace at all, and then makes a little mistake, and, well, I suppose you could say Tikoff did run into the back of him, in fairness. But, yeah, it's been a pretty miserable race for Haas so far. Not what they would have expected from the two debutantes, but Gunther Steiner will not be happy at all. But Miguel Scal, meanwhile, comes out of the pits. I couldn't quite see how much fuel he had put in, and I think that was 25, I said. So, yeah, I think that will be enough to go to the end, I think. Meanwhile, this is Tikoff going past. This is Jared Fosbury into turn 1, and he makes it stick. I mean, you wouldn't expect the Haas drivers would be battling with the Manners, really. But that's just how this race has gone. Meanwhile, Franco Gamma, what is the gap? 7, I think, is that 7 seconds? 7 seconds. That is to Franco Lopez. So, wow, Franco Gamma really does have the edge on his fellow Franco. And the battle of the Francos is going to rage on this season. You can tell already just from this race. But Franco Gamma so far coming out on top. He has got the pace, and so far he is leading this. I mean, I was not expecting this. This was not what I was expecting. Franco Gamba to be leading. I mean, Willows will be absolutely kicking himself. He had this race in the bag, and unfortunately, that error he made coming out of the pits has cost him hugely. And Franco Gamba, from absolutely nowhere, leading this race. And of course, this would be his first top-tier OC win, of course. And you wouldn't think that. I mean, a few seasons ago, was it back in 5 seasons ago, back in 2014, he was, and even just seasons after that, he was having terrible luck. It just seemed he was never going to end. It was never going to change. But after last season, Franco Gamba managed to get the seat of Red Bull, and he is taking it with both hands. And fair play to him. He is doing a great job in this race. He's taking advantage of the chaos around him and taking P1. I mean, you probably could say he wouldn't deserve this win, but I suppose he'll say he deserves it because of all the terrible luck he's had. From this race only, probably hasn't been well, he's certainly been quick, but of course that start really cost him badly. Meanwhile, Joseph Wheeler trying to recover positions now behind the Toro Rosso of Matteo Catalan, who himself, as I said, has had a pretty solid race. Not quite as good as Kupok, who's unlucky, of course, with that collision with Gal, but he's still done pretty well nonetheless, Catalan. Meanwhile, Willows is going to overtake him, I think, for P6. He's on the inside. He's going to make the move stick as he got the run. He's going to go around the outside, which would be the inside, and yes, so Willows goes around the outside of Catalan and moves up into P6, but Catalan will still be happy at the moment if he does get some points. 7th he'll definitely be pretty pleased with. Drossel at the moment having a fantastic race for McLaren in 4th. But of course, Moichin behind him has pitted, and I don't know actually if he's going to the end. I think I imagine he probably will be. But the gap, so look at what's the gap to Gal behind? It's 32 seconds. So Lopez obviously when he pits will come out comfortably ahead. And he'll actually going to be coming to the pits this lap, Lopez. So there we go. Meanwhile, we're looking at Jared Fosbury at this moment in time, who's running essentially almost in last position, in 19th place, and he is just having a miserable race. It really has not gone well for him at all. It's just not. It's just one of those days, I guess. You know, they'll recover from this, I guess, Haas. But as I said, like Chatfield, of course, got involved in the first lap. Fosbury didn't actually. I'm pretty sure Fosbury wasn't involved in anything apart from the thing with Tickov a few laps ago. But apart from that, he wasn't involved in anything else. So I think it was just purely to the fact he didn't have any pace, really. But there we go. Meanwhile, Chatfield, speaking of him, has come out in 60 places. So I think, well, I think that's why De Rosso made the mistake there, because Chatfield had just come out of the pits at that exact time. So De Rosso actually had to go wide. The pit lane exit coming into effect there. Fortunately, De Rosso kept it on the road. No harm done. Meanwhile, we're looking at Franco Lopez now coming in for his final stop of the race. The gap to Gal was still over 30 seconds. So he's going to comfortably come out ahead of the Hungarian. So as he comes into the pits, and let's see, he'll of course go to the end, and he'll comfortably ahead of Gal. So at the moment, Franco Lopez splitting the two Red Bulls. I don't think people were necessarily expecting that that was what was going to happen this race, because Willows was the driver that had the pace during practice, and throughout this race had the pace then as well. But as I said, he's just throwing it away. That's all you can really say about it. But De Rosso at the moment is in P4. He's going to be pitting once more. Actually, Moichin actually will have to pit once more. So it looks like that we could have a battle on actually for P4 possibly between De Rosso and Roland Moichin. Meanwhile, at least Kupok has recovered his points. He's down in P9, but at least he is still in the hunt for some points. I think I just saw briefly, I think that was the pit call for Franco Gamba to come in this lap, I believe. I think I just saw. But meanwhile, we look at Franco Lopez, who's stuck behind. I think that was Jay McKenzie trying to lap him. And yes, I was right. So Franco Gamba is going to come in for his final stop of the race. So on what will be lap 40, well, it's on lap 39, but it will be lap 40 when he goes across the line. 18 laps left to go of this race, and so far it's been a pretty entertaining start. I mean, I was realised, of course, Amar Carr has been lapped, of course, by Franco Gamba, and of course he'll lap himself once Gamba goes into the pits, but definitely not the start that Carr would have wanted, that is for sure. But as we look at Franco Gamba now coming into the pits for his final stop of this race. I'm not going to say the win is guaranteed for him yet, because it isn't, because anything can happen. Meanwhile, actually, David Kupok, I think, has passed his teammate Catalan for 8th position, so I imagine it's probably team orders there. But Franco Gamba comes in, changes up for tyres, and look at that, 5-second stop. Pretty quick stop by Red Bull. I mean, they're known for very quick pit stops anyway, so, I mean, are you really surprised? No, not really. Meanwhile, we're looking at Andrea Federi at the moment, running in P14. I mean, it's basically ahead of McKenzie, really. McKenzie, who was running on the outskirts of the points, well, he was running in the points, but so far, but not. I mean, the Renault definitely is a quick car, but he's just not had a good race at all. Meanwhile, Tomaselli trying to lap that is Fosbury, and Fosbury now being overtaken there by Rosetta Martinez in the manor, and unfortunately, it just compounds his misery. Martinez, who had a good qualifying, but has unfortunately been stuck at the back of the grid this race. We haven't seen much of him at all, really. But of course, he won the DTM Championship last season. That's why he's here. I'd say won it pretty comfortably. I mean, he was leading for a fair bit of it, and could have nearly thrown it away. Nearly threw it away to David Greenwood, but fortunately he still won the championship. Fair dues, he definitely deserved it. Meanwhile, Titkoff trying to pass Lean Campana into the first corner, unable to make a move though. That was a P17. Meanwhile, Castellan under pressure now from Tomaselli in the McLaren as they're coming towards turn 3 here. And Tomaselli, I think he's in the slipstream of the Toro Rosso. He's going to try and make him on the inside, but Castellan is having none of it. He defends, and I think both these two are going to pit once more before the end. We're looking at Gal at the moment, who's running in P3. Lopez just a little bit ahead of him. Meanwhile, Carr is trying to pass David Kupok. This is for P11. Kupok, I think, who's just come out of the pits. And Carr does make the move stick past the Toro Rosso. That is for 11th position. So Carr trying to recover to get at least some points from this race, which is, of course, still possible. Oh my word. There was so nearly contact between the two Italians there, Catalan and Tomaselli. Fortunately, none was done. Of course, there's Laura Chung, some sort of a rhyme there, who is going to try and take advantage, of course, try and move up positions. I think she's pitting before the end as well. Roland Moichin is in for his last stop. Gabriel Gomez is in for his last stop as well. So, positions are not all getting in. Oh, Lopez is off! And Lopez is off the circuit! From P2, Franco Lopez is off! And Gal has gone past him there. And Franco Lopez has just thrown away P2, and that is just handed second place to Gal, and it could be a Red Bull 1-2. I can't believe what's just happened here. Franco Lopez, he was never going to get to Gamma in front. He had P2 ahead of Gal, and he's made a mistake at the same corner that Willows did after his stop. He has gone wide. He's lucky, actually. He didn't get any damage. But he has just lost P2 to Milos Gal. And incredibly, Red Bull out of this race are going to get a 1-2, it looks like. Meanwhile, looking at Titkoff battling with Campana, but they've got faster cars. They've got Catalan, who wants to lap them behind, and Gabriel Gomez and Tomaselli as they come through the first corner. And Gomez, I think, is obviously just pitted as well. He's going to try and take advantage of this and try to get past the Italian of Catalan. So they head towards turn 3. He's right at the slipstream. Tomaselli is going to be pitting this lap as well. Gabriel Gomez is going to try and make a move on the inside of Catalan. Oh, they make contact, and Catalan is off. Gomez is wide. Tomaselli is through. Catalan has gone way off, and he's into the wall. And Matteo Catalan is out of this race, and you really got a feel for him. He definitely deserves some points from this race, and unfortunately, he's going to be getting nothing. And he definitely didn't deserve the points. Didn't perform quite as well as Kupok, but Kupok performed way outside of what I suppose anyone thought his standards would be, really. But Catalan was just doing his job, was being pretty solid, and unfortunately, contact there from the back of Gabriel Gomez, quite hefty contact as well. That allowed Tomaselli to get through up into P7. Unfortunately for Catalan, he went off into the wall. And you really got a feel for him. He was actually going to the end, Catalan. I thought he had a stop to go, so that was a legitimate battle between the two. And of course, Catalan was not helped by the fact that Campana and Titkoff were battling ahead. So unfortunately, just didn't work out very well there for Catalan. Just wrong place at the wrong time. Meanwhile, this is a battle for P5. This has been going on throughout a fair bit of the rest. This is between De Rossa and Moitin. This is for the top 5. To get the last spot in the top 5. Willis has obviously recovered 2P4, has a good recovery, but as I said, he will just be kicking himself that he didn't get to. Oh, actually, De Rossa made a little mistake there. Coming out of turn 1, this is a chance for Moitin to get through here. And Moitin's going to try to get through on the inside. De Rossa made a little mistake around turn 1. Moitin's on the inside, and he is through. And, that's just all he needed. Actually, De Rossa, interestingly enough, I didn't realise De Rossa is on the intermediate tyres. He's on the green tyres. I'm pretty sure he's actually the only driver who is on the intermediate tyres, which is very interesting to see. Meanwhile, Joseph Willows all over the back of Franco Lopez, who's really struggling for pace, but he's lucky that Willows is going to have a pit stop that he's making right now, because otherwise Franco Lopez might actually have found himself off the podium. So you really got a feel for Franco Lopez, as I said. But yeah, just he'll be frustrated with himself that that he's lost this race, really, Franco Lopez, and he's lost P2 as well. Meanwhile, Willows, of course, coming into the pits, and the incident between Titkoff and Jared Fosbury has been concluded to be a racing incident, which I think is probably fair enough after all that, really. But yeah, so Willows now comes out Well, he's about to come out of his pit box, I should say. He's coming into it. Changes all 4 tyres. Will, of course, go to the end. And so he comes out. 5.3 seconds stop. He'll come out in a comfortable P4. I don't think he'll have enough to gain on Franco Lopez or overtake him at the end, but you never know. Depends how good Franco Lopez's tyres are at the end. But Willows, fortunately, will come out in P4. Speaking of Franco Lopez, here we are with him. What's the gap to Gal? It's 7.2. I don't think he's exactly gaining on the Hungarian in front, so I'm not sure if there's going to be many position changes at the front. Meanwhile, this is a battle for the last point spot. Chung down the inside of Tomaselli, and a great move that she's made there to get the last point in this race past Tomaselli. And I thought Tomaselli was actually going to get some points from this race, but it looks like he's just going to miss out. But Laura Chung, I mean, it's not been a bad recovery from her. She's 10th place. As I said, if I remember rightly, she's at the fastest lap, so she will be getting the bonus point. So she'll be getting 2 points, in fact, from this race, it looks like. The gap Gamma to Gal about 16.2 seconds. Lopez 23 seconds behind. Willow's way behind, of course, having just made his stop. Meanwhile, Maxime Titkov is in for his last stop for Mana. He is about to come in. And so there's about 9 laps to go of this race. So, as I said, Mana's obviously no surprise have been the drivers at the back of the grid. But Martin has had a great qualifying. First qualifying for him, managing to get into Q2 was pretty impressive, you have to say. Did very well. Meanwhile, we're looking at Titkov, who now comes in for his final stop, and all 4 tyres on. We'll be going to the end, and there we go. 4.8, that was actually pretty quick. Even quicker than the Red Bull stop, is that even possible? But he actually comes out behind his teammate Marston, so I wonder if those two will battle as to who will be the best manner out of this race, but we will see what happens with that, because Will is at the moment in 4th, and he's made 4 stops. We're looking at the moment at Amar Kar, who is in the course in the points. He's in, I think it was 8th position. Looking at Fosbury battling with Titkov, of course. This is the battle not to be last. Meanwhile, Franco Lopez trying to get past this traffic as well. And it doesn't look like he's particularly gaining on Gal in front. Well, actually, I'll see where the gap is as they come across the line, if it will show it. And 6.1. Actually, no, he is gaining a bit, actually, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough if he wants to get the podium back. But meanwhile, we are on the final lap of this race, lap 58 of 58, and look who is leading. Franco Gamba. Few would have believed it after the start when Franco Gamba had dropped down to 5th at the first corner, and had actually dropped down to 6th at one point behind De Rossa. No one expected him to be here, and meanwhile Gabriel Gomez has received a 15-second time penalty for causing the incident with Matteo Catalan, and so I wonder if that will affect his place coming into this race. But anyway, Franco Gamba, no one expected this, and he'll be absolutely delighted. I think everyone will be, really, for the fact, of course, the amount of luck, bad luck he's had over previous seasons, and it's now all come down to this. He is set to win the Australian Grand Prix. I mean, and to quote Tame Impala, one of their songs, eventually terrible memories turn into great ones. And for Franco Gamba, all those terrible memories he had of being in the Toro Rosso, a terrible car, he is now at the sister team, the Red Bull, the better car, and he really is taking advantage of what he has got. And Franco Gamba is about to come round the final 2 corners for the 58th and final time, and he's about to come round the final corner, and here we go. This is the home stretch. He comes round the final corner, and Franco Gamba is a winner in the top class of GP4 OC. He wins the Australian Grand Prix, his first win in the top tier. Congratulations to him. He'll be absolutely chuffed with that. Amar Khan, meanwhile, being lapped by Franco Gamba, actually in 8th position. Kupog at least managed to recover and get 2 points in 9th. Laura Chung, she at least managed to recover and get P10. I guess that's relatively good for her, but she'll be frustrated at the fact at what happened this race. Meanwhile, Miklas Gau will come across the line and will take P2. It will be a Red Bull 1-2 after Australia. No one expected that from this race, I don't think. Franco Lopez, P3. It could have been P1. He only gets P3, and it should have been P2. Lots of Ps in there. Meanwhile, Lincoln Parler comes across line 16. He does beat Martinez behind, and then Titkov behind there as well. Felix Sontag, he'll come home in 12th place. Had an alright race, actually, I have to say. Didn't do too badly at all. Fosbury across line 19th. He will be last. Joseph Willows, he'll be frustrated more than anyone else. He threw what looked like a certain victory away in P4. For Dairy comes across line in P13. Chris Chatfield recovers to be P14. Frustrating for him as well, because he had a good qualifying as well in 11th, but again cost himself on the first lap, which eliminated himself from any chance of points. In 14th, Renault Moyton does beat De Rossi to P5, so good performance by both drivers, you have to say. P5 and 6. Gabriel Gomez had to come across the line in P7, and Carr, I think, was lapped, so yeah, I think Gomez will keep P7, despite, of course, having that 15-second time penalty. So he comes across the line. Jim McKenzie raced to get him in P15. But there it is, Frankie Gamba, a race winner in GP4 OC, and here we are now looking at the full race results. Frankie Gamba winning ahead of Nicholas Gowan 2nd, Franco Lopez 3rd, Joseph Williams 4th, Roland Moyton 5th, De Rossi 6th, Gabriel Gomez 7th despite the penalty, Amar Carr 8th, David Kupop 9th, Laura Chung in 10th. And she would originally be getting 1 point, but she'd be getting 2, thanks to the fact that she got the fastest lap of this race. Paulino Tomaselli was 11th, Phoenix Otto 12th, Paderi 13th, Chatfield 14th, McKenzie 15th. They were all a lap down, with Campana, Martinez, Tikoff and Fosbury all 2 laps down, with Matteo Catalan, Evan Byrne, George Wrote, the 3 drivers that retired from this race. Only 3 retirements actually in Australia, and an interesting start to the season. That is for sure. Now we'll take a look, of course, of the driver standings and the constructors, of course, same as the points. Frankie Gamba, Gal, Lopez, Williams, Moyton, De Rossi, Gomez, Carr, Kupop, and Chung, with of course Chung with 2 points, having set the fastest lap. So, yeah, Red Bull at the moment, top of the standing. They'll be comfortably clear in the constructors, of course, going into the next race in Bahrain. We'll look at the rest of the order as normal, but for Jay McKenzie, he'll be disappointed with that race. He had a pretty horrid race. I mean, so did Haas, really, in all fairness, although possibly probably worse than Chatfield. Catalan unlucky to lose points from where he was. Byrne and Rowe, of course, had that collision early on, so we couldn't really see how they were going to do, but Rowe had a bad start, so we need to make sure he recovers from that. But of course, here's the constructors. Red Bull leading ahead of Mercedes in 2nd, Ferrari in 3rd, Racing Point in 4th, McLaren 5th, Alfa Romeo 6th, Toro Rosso 7th, Williams 8th, Haas 9th, Renault 10th, and Manor 11th. So that is the constructor standings after Australia. So, yeah, and it was a pretty good race. But meanwhile, of course, this was the driver of the day from Brazil in 2018, for Roco, of course, being the champion. The final ever race rating at 8.3 out of 10, as we are scrapping that for this season. The driver of the day from Australia was voted for after the race was Frankie Gamba. No surprise there. So, yeah, of course, that is now how we're doing it this season. Driver of the day vote as soon as the race finishes until the end of the day. But thank you very much for watching, guys. That was the Australian Grand Prix. I hope you guys enjoyed, and we will see you for the next round, the Bahrain Grand Prix at the Bahrain International Circuit. Thanks for watching, everyone, and we'll see you there.